I just stopped believing in positive pregnancy tests.
Really?
This doesn't mean anything, How do I even know if this is going to last? We had the scan and there was a baby with a heartbeat.
No way!
At 6 weeks. Strong heartbeat.
Whoa!
I was terrified of birth. I just wanted to just teleport the baby out of me. I was so scared. But then it got to the point in your third trimester where you're just like, get out of me.
Did they do the whole baby over the curtain thing?
They did, and like his head was like 3 times the size of what it should be.
Cords.
Yeah, because it was so swollen. So he looked like Megamind coming over. And I was like, and obviously I was so happy to see him, but I was like, oh my God, his head. At the thought of breastfeeding, I was like, no.
Really?
Yes.
So what changed?
I know people that did it cold turkey and
The pain of that. Honestly, the burn, the heat.
Oh, I can't imagine.
The stoneness of that. Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Happy Mum, Happy Baby, the podcast. Today's guest appeared on our screens many moons ago as one of the OGs in Made in Chelsea. She's already laughing at the thought of many moons ago. Since then, she has become an author with Feed Me Vegan. She started her own maternity brand with RENUE and she's had a little bubba, a little boy. Today's guest is Lucy Watson. Hello.
Hi.
How
Thanks
are
for
you?
having me. I'm good.
Does it feel weird that, I always feel like I'm always going to I'm a celeb attached to me. I know my brother's always going to have something, there's always things that are attached to you, even though it's a different part of you. It's a different world to where you are now.
Yeah. I quite like it, actually.
Do you?
Weirdly, I do, yeah, because it was like such a great time. I don't know if you like it, but it was such a great time, and like, it's such a huge part of my journey in life and got me to where I am today. Yeah. And thank God, to be honest, because I was so lost before I did that.
Really?
Yeah, I was so lost. I didn't really know what I was going to do. So I feel like, yeah, I don't mind it. I guess it was so long ago, though. That's the only thing. I kind of need something a bit more like current that I can be associated with. Yeah, but
you're doing all your, all your sustainability.
We did do a show actually last year, Beyond Chelsea, which is... been quite exciting to be a part of another TV show because I always wanted to do more TV. And
was that the OGs coming back?
Yeah, that was.
How was that?
Yeah, that was really interesting. That was different.
I imagine different vibes in terms of you're all older, wiser. You see the format for what it is and the show for what it is. In terms of drama and stuff, you're probably a little bit, more
aware.
Carry yourself differently.
Definitely, yeah. I think I'm like hyper self-aware now, almost to a fault. Mm-hmm. So I didn't want to kind of bring that back onto TV because I feel like that's not the person that people necessarily associate me as. They associate me as like this free talker and like carefree with my thoughts and feelings, which I am at my core, but I think I'm a bit more like aware of how I present that now.
And also because of the stuff that you do online, you're in charge of your edit, right? So you know what you're putting out there. You know your brand, yourself, how you present yourself. Whereas when you are then back in someone else's edit and someone else is like producing or, creating situations.
Yeah. And
it's different.
And it was different this time around because it's not it wasn't a constructed reality show. It was more a fly on the wall. So actually everything that came across was exactly as it was filmed anyway. Whereas I guess Made in Chelsea was, edited in a way to make as much of a dramatic, show as possible. Yeah. And sometimes you'd watch scenes and be like, I do not remember it going that way, but okay.
Really?
Yeah. Okay then. So this is how it's going to go. But I guess, this was totally different. And I mean, I don't know if I'm a celeb is like that or...
I was very aware of watching it afterwards to make sure that I knew what was put out.
Yeah.
Because, you film for so long. Oh, yeah. But what's the actual story?
What's actually been shown.
Because I don't want to talk about something else that someone said that hasn't been shown. And then it's me sharing, and things like that.
That must be weird, not knowing what, your journey, but you don't know what version of your journey has actually been shown. Yeah.
How is motherhood? How are you? Are you sleeping right now?
Last night, my husband and I take it in turns.
Okay.
So at the moment we are in temporary accommodation. We're in a 2-bed flat with the whole gang. So my son, my 2 dogs and my cat.
Yeah.
While we're doing a renovation on our, like, hopefully forever home.
Yeah.
It's been a year nearly, and I don't think we ever imagined it would be this long.
Is the end in sight?
It's like 8 weeks away, supposedly, but I'm still just like, I'll believe it when I see it. I can't see it happening, but I know it's close. But he's in our room still.
Right.
He's 13 months. And there is no room for his crib in the other room because the other room's got a bed in it and the other room's small. And we don't want to take the bed out because then it's going to be rented and like all these things. So at the moment, we're taking it in turns who sleeps in the room with him and who gets a good night. We could technically both sleep in the spare room, but it's
on principle.
But it's too small a bed
right, okay.
for my husband, basically, for both of us.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a king size bed, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah, that's too small. Yeah,
I gotta say, I do think it gets to a certain point where I'm like, for me and Tom, like, our feet might touch at the start of the night, but then that's enough. You know what I mean? I want my own space. I don't want to feel you move.
Yeah, and like he's like just no awareness. Like he just takes up the whole bed, and I'm just I literally like lie asleep like this, and I do not move, and that's not enough. You know, that's too much for him. So he needs Super King.
Yeah,
needs Super King.
So it's not that Willoughby's not sleeping. It's just a fact.
Willoughby actually isn't that great a sleeper. He's got a dummy still.
Okay.
So there's so many things that like we want to change that we're kind of putting off until we get into the house, because I'm like, is this going to help him with the transition into the new house? Like, I don't want to take that comfort thing for him right now, because I think when he's in the new house, it'll be a lot of change happening all at once. I don't have a problem with kids having dummies. Yep. My husband had a dummy till he was 4.
Oh, wow.
So like which I found out recently, and I'm like, well, you say you should take it away, but your journey was a little different.
And how are his teeth? His teeth are all lovely.
They're fine.
And he can talk, so it's all fine.
His teeth aren't necessarily his teeth, but they're good.
But they're lovely. It's all
exactly. But yeah, so there's just the dummy is a problem.
So is he losing it in the night? Is that why?
And then wanting
I can remember, especially with the third, just like having an army of dummies around so that he could just reach out.
I want to do that, but I'm like, is that going to be uncomfy if because he thrashes around?
I don't think so. They're only little dummies. Like, I think it's fine. Just scatter them around. And also, I will say that with all 3 of mine, I really worried about taking them away.
Yeah.
Really worried, really catastrophized that moment, thought it was going to be awful. And actually, it was fine.
Really? How long did it last?
A day.
Really?
Yeah.
Then how did they get to sleep? Without it, because that's his sleep signal.
Well, so yeah, exactly the same. Yeah. So mine would, in my perfect world of my head, mine would only ever have their dummies when they went to sleep. But then, you know, they'd get poorly and whatever else.
Yeah,
whatever.
Course, yeah.
And I think especially with my middle one, I can remember he had a spell where he'd been poorly, and he had a dummy in his mouth and had another dummy in his hand. It reminded me of like an old Tom and Jerry sketch where it's actually cigarettes, but the cat ends up with all the cigarettes in his mouth, and it's just really wide. And I felt like that was going to be the case with dummies, just like a mouthful of dummies, and it kind of freaked me out a little bit. And I thought, well, this is the time. And he had been a little bit poorly, but it was sort of getting better. And I just started taking it away earlier in the night, and then just sort of went for it and just kind of like,
People say just like make a hole in it, and then it's like
it's
they
less
don't
desirable.
Want it anyway.
Yeah.
So I think we'd probably try that, but. Like I said, this whole house thing is going to be such a big change. And people have kind of scared me about that. Because they're like, you know, that it really unsettles the kids. Like when they're young, when they move house, it's really unsettling for them. So I think I'm a little bit like just preempting this as being going to be quite a stressful time. So I don't want anything that can help him get through it. Exactly. You know, and you
might find that it's not stressful at all. Like you said, you're going to be somewhere green. It's going to be, you know, it's going to be very different to where you are now.
And he's been there for all our site visits and everything. Like every time we go, he sees it. So like, I don't think it's going to be a strange environment in that sense. He's been there so many times anyway, but it's obviously a building site. So
I would say, don't let what other people say freak you out.
Yeah.
Just kind of deal with it in the moment and see what it's like when you actually get there. Because we can build these things up to be, like I said about the dummy, every time I built it up to be a massive thing and then it's just gone.
Yeah.
Where did you grow up? Am I right in thinking that you grew up on a farm?
Yes, I did. Yeah, a farm in Surrey, a working farm. And
what kind of farm?
Animals.
Right.
Yeah. So like pigs, cows, lambs, the whole shebang.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was, I loved animals. So I was 6, I think, when I moved there. And then I think just like my love for animals grew so much being there. But then I think, I mean, just seeing like the processes as a child, it was I stopped eating animals quite soon.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, because it's that thing. It makes total sense that you fall in love with an animal and then you understand what's going on with the animal.
Yeah, and because
so
I wasn't raised on a farm, I had those 6 years of like forming relationships with animals and loving them, and then going to a farm at that age. I think I just, and then understanding, sort of putting 2 and 2 together because it was happening right in front of me, and then just being so emotionally like scarred from it, and just thinking I was very like headstrong as well as a child, still am, and I was just like, no, not gonna eat them.
And did the rest of the family follow suit, or did they just let you get on with it?
No, so they let me get on with it, and I think they appreciated the compassionate side of it, and that they liked that about me as a child and supported that. But I think my dad doesn't have that emotional connection with animals. My mum did become vegetarian.
Really?
Yeah, and my sister, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, because my mum, you know, listening to the lambs and stuff, like the mothers that are left behind, like listening to that, we're in the house, so we can hear them crying all night, and that keeps you up at night when they're crying for their babies. And I think for her, she couldn't do it either. She's like, I can't. But that's, you know, deep chat.
That is a deep chat.
Yeah.
But the other side of it is growing up on a farm in the countryside and being surrounded by green.
Beautiful, yeah.
What was your childhood like?
It was, so moving to the farm was lovely. I was outdoors all the time, which is what I want for Willoughby as well. I want him to be outdoors. And, you know, I just remember just like running around all the time, like in wellies, and just like being on hay bales and like just rolling around in long grass and just like adventures, you know, just constant adventures. And I think, you know, not necessarily in London, it's a bit trickier to live that kind of lifestyle. I don't know. But yeah, I think my parents, so they got divorced when I was 9, so that's quite a big memory for me of my childhood, because then my life's changed drastically. Yeah. But I think...
Were you still living in Surrey, or were you split?
So my mum moved close by to my dad initially.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it was easier for both of them.
Yeah.
And I'd spend like most of my time with my mum, and then like every other weekend with my dad, and every Thursday with my dad. So yeah, that's quite a big memory for me from childhood, but there's a lot of happy memories too. There are some overwhelmingly bad memories with the divorce, but like there are mainly happy memories.
It's hard, I think, when you go through something like that as a kid, because I think it's something that you understand more as you get older, but you also feel for that child.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's, in a way, it has its pros from me being in that kind of environment from a young age, because now I'm hyper aware when my husband and I are bickering or anything. I'm like, I know where this is going to go if I don't, you know, nip it in the bud, or if we don't like work on this. We are like hyper aware of our issues in a way, and I mean, I am. He probably is like, okay, just chill. I'm like, you know, if I feel like we're in a rut, I'm just quite proactive and like to make sure that we just communicate. Yeah. And take a second. Yeah. You know? So it's given me tools in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have one sister you grew up with?
One sister and 2 half brothers, yeah. Yeah, my sister Tiffany was also in Chelsea. Yeah. And she's got a boy who's 8 months older than mine.
Oh, yeah. So you both got boys.
Yeah, it's so lovely.
That's lovely. That's really lovely. When you were younger, did you know that you wanted to have a family when you're older?
I think when I was younger, I didn't know what I knew in a way, because I think the society is so kind of set of, when you grow up, you will be a mum and you will have children. So I just was like, well, when I grow up, I'm going to be a mum and have children. So I don't think I ever really thought about what I wanted. I just thought that was what was going to happen. Yeah. And I think I battled with wanting to have a career and be a mum, and thinking, are the two possible? So there were times in the early days of our relationship where I was a bit like, oh, I don't know if I want kids actually, because I have all these ambitions and things, and like, I don't know if it's going to be possible. And you know, you can't miss what you don't have kind of thing. But then when we got married, I was just like so in love with my husband. I was like, I actually just want more of this.
Yeah.
Bigger family. That's kind of how I see it. More members of us together, you know?
Yeah,
just like a bigger family.
Do you remember you and James talking about it when you first got together in terms of like what that looked like? And especially if you were like, I don't know.
Oh, yeah. He says now, he's like, I was like, I'm not sure about you because you were literally like, you know, saying all these things about how you weren't sure about whether you wanted kids. And I was like, so sure that I wanted kids.
Yeah.
So, you know, he's always wanted to be a dad, whereas I had so many other things that I wanted to be.
Yeah.
So I was just quite torn, but
Yeah.
I've realised that the two are very possible. And actually, like, you know, thank God I decided to have kids because my son is like my world now. So, yeah.
Very cute.
Yeah.
Can you remember when you first started, when you first thought now's probably the time to actually start trying?
Yes.
Because that's a big old shift.
Yes, before we got married, I think we were sort of just like being quite, like we weren't using protection or anything. Yeah, carefree. We weren't using protection, and we were just kind of like, if it happens, it happens, you know. And I think we'd been together for 6 years then, so it felt like we'd done everything and anything that we could want to do together without having that responsibility. Because I think people also really instill that into you, that it's like you must do what you want to do now and make sure you do it. And I totally get that now because I'm like, okay, yeah. Because as soon as you have a child, your life becomes devoted to your child.
Yeah.
So, we started being carefree before we got married.
And were you surprised by how long it took?
Yes,
Because it wasn't a straightforward.
Oh, I thought it was going to happen first month. I remember the first time having like unprotected sex and being like, okay, I'm pregnant, so
because it's the way.
What are we going to call the baby?
We've been brought up though, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like any time anything happens where you might have, you know, not been practicing safe sex, you suddenly go, oh my God.
Everyone puts that fear in you that it's like, if you don't use protection, you're going to get pregnant. And all the way through school and everything. And then maybe it is the case for when you're younger and more fertile, and it probably is like, it happens a lot more quickly anyway. Yeah. But we were definitely surprised at how long it took. And it was only when I sort of did my researching on Google and really delved deep, because I'm the kind of person that when I take something on, I kind of hyperfixate. And it's not just I'll dip in. I will just want to learn anything and everything about this topic. So I wanted to learn everything about fertility and everything to do with it. So when I found out I think it's like on average it takes a couple a year to get pregnant. And then I think the remainder of the, you know, that percent of people that got pregnant within the year will normally get pregnant within 2 years. And there was me thinking, 2 or 3 months it will happen. And I mean, I don't know what your journey was like, but when you're trying, it's every month it feels like a year.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I came off my pill, and then I basically didn't have periods for a year.
Really?
And I knew that I had PCOS anyway. So I ended up going on metformin, on Clomid. Then I had a miscarriage, and then I had a whole period of time where I felt like I needed to get some sort of peace with my body, because I felt so angry. And just the grief of a miscarriage is so tough to navigate before sort of kind of going, no, we're ready to go again. So it's all everyone's journey into it is different.
It is. And that's another thing that I don't think you realise going into it, is that you never know what your journey's going to be.
Yeah.
And you can have friends around you who got pregnant first try or whatever, and then you might have friends around you that are going through fertility issues, and you never know.
Did it open up conversations between you and your friends that you hadn't had before?
No, because my friends and I are very open anyway with everything, and I was probably one of the last ones to start trying. So a lot of my friends had already had their first or even their second. So I'd say, 50% of my friends had it really easy. Really? Yeah, and then 50% were really struggled. So I did sort of think, oh, you never go into something thinking negatively and thinking this is going to be really hard for me.
Yeah.
But I did go into it open-minded and knowing that it could go anyway. And that's why I think I was very proactive with testing and, you know, getting everything checked and everything like that. As soon as, I think it'd been like maybe 4, 5, 6 months of trying.
Yeah. That
I was like, okay, I just want to check everything's okay.
Yeah.
Because if it's not, this could be years. You know, we need to be proactive here. So, and that's probably due to being around my friends and their experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was it like going through, you know, all those tests and you know, hearing how things were going? Did it give you hope? Did it, you know,
invasive comes to mind.
Yeah.
Especially for the women.
Yeah.
So yeah, it wasn't enjoyable.
Yeah.
Expensive.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, yeah, just not a fun time in life. Not a fun time. And I think it was like every appointment I go into, there'd be something negative being told to me about me.
Really?
Yeah. And it was a very anxiety-inducing time. I had a lot of tears, a lot of I guess feeling sorry for myself and thinking, oh my God, why me? But like, in retrospect, I actually had a really good journey. But you don't know what your journey's going to be like when you're in it.
You don't. And also it's, you know, it's hard to, you can't compare your story to someone else's because it's all relative to you. You're experiencing it. It's your heartache, your disappointment, your anger, whatever it is that you're feeling at certain points. You have to be allowed to feel them.
Oh, 100%. And I was in my feels a lot of the time. And looking back, if me had known that I was going to be pregnant at whatever time I was pregnant with my child and everything was going to go okay and everything like that, I wish I could have told me and said, just don't worry, it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
But the not knowing is one of the hardest parts of going through fertility issues is not only how long is this going to take, but will it ever happen for me?
Yeah. Because
you do obviously read about so many people who are less fortunate and who don't ever have kids or have really terrible journeys. So yeah, it's that fear of the unknown that makes it really difficult.
Absolutely. How did you mentally get yourself through that time?
I had every day I did my gratitude.
Really?
Which I used to literally rinse people for doing.
But when it works,
I'd see it on social media and people were doing that. I'm so grateful for this, and I'd be like, oh my God. And every morning, I think I probably drove James, my husband, crazy because I'd be like, we're so lucky that we have a roof over our head, and we're so lucky that our dogs are so well behaved, and like all these things that I would just every day be like, oh, we're so lucky for this. And you know, it just really got me through because there was still so much to be grateful for in life, and I had to focus on the positives of my life. And I'm lucky as well that my husband was just always, he never faltered. He was, it's gonna happen. I'm not even worried.
Really?
Every single day. I'm not even, what are you crying about? What are you worried about? It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. And I'm like, but what if it doesn't? What if it doesn't? And yeah, he was like my rock. He is just like my rock anyway in life, but he was my rock during that. So
I love that.
And I'm sure in his mind he had the same
worries,
but he just did not let it show.
Yeah.
Ever. So
what did your fertility journey look like?
So testing, I think, is just like the standard thing. I did every single test that you can think of. And I just tried everything, really. I don't really talk about it in too much detail because it's not just my journey.
Yeah.
It's also my partner's journey, and that's just something that we agreed. But I think every sort of fertility treatment or test that you can really think of, I did it, basically.
Did that help you make you feel proactive in it as well? And
I was
feel like you were taking some sort of control.
I was definitely obsessive, and I saw probably 4 specialists across a number of years. And you know, if something wasn't working for me with someone, and I felt like they tried this and that and it wasn't working, I would just move on. And I actually encourage other people to do the same because every doctor has different advice. Yeah. That's the really confusing thing that I found, and that I think is a real flaw in the system. Because, you know, what is the case then? How do we know what's true and what's the legit science of it, because every doctor will tell you, this doctor will tell me, actually, this is really bad about your body and this is going to make it really difficult and you're going to struggle. And then the next doctor would say, actually, that's not a thing and I don't agree and that's not the issue. This is the issue. It's just so inconsistent.
Really confusing.
Yeah, really confusing. And a lot of the research that I did was my own.
Really?
Scouring the internet, reading forums, reading other women's experiences, watching YouTube videos.
Was there a comfort in that?
No, that was hell.
Right. It's funny though, isn't it, that we put ourselves in positions where actually it's maybe not feeding us in a way that's healthy, but actually there's that desire, that almost desperation to kind of to have that information.
It was like a control thing. I fully know that about myself, that it was a control thing. And I think I sometimes do think if I hadn't been so obsessive with everything that I was doing and so proactive, would it have taken longer, more time, or I don't know. Or was my obsessiveness and my obsessive behaviour actually making it take long?
Hindering it, yeah.
I don't know.
Just never know.
I don't know.
But the flip side of that is
if
anything was different, then Willoughby wouldn't be Willoughby.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It'd be someone else.
Yeah, exactly. But I do feel for women who are going through fertility issues, because there is so much information out there and a lot of it is conflicting. And I think there's a lot of misinformation out there as well. And I think for women, it can be very overwhelming and confusing. And who do you listen to? I guess also it's expensive.
Yeah.
If you're having to wait for the NHS, you have to have been trying, I think, for at least a year or two to have fertility treatment. And then, we know what the NHS is like. There's so many delays with everything. And it's not necessarily prioritised. Yeah. So then you're kind of putting your fate in their hands and waiting for your appointments to come up. And that could add years on as well, because of how slow it could be. So I was very fortunate that I could put money into it.
Yeah, especially as women, and we're told that our bodies as we get older or whatever, you're just kind of like, it feels like a ticking bomb that's kind of like moving further away. Or
but it didn't for me. I don't know why, but I think I was more... the kind of information that I was reading or absorbing was more so, you have so much time.
Really?
Yes.
That's great.
Yeah. And I don't know if that's changed in the last few years, but I think what I thought was, do your career, do your thing, do this. You've got time. Yeah. You've got time. Yeah. So I was like, I have got time. I'm just going to, just really chill about this. And it was only when I started speaking to doctors and them saying, actually, these are the scientific stats. At this age, your fertility is at this, and then goes down, 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 and your eggs are dropping, and and it was like, oh, okay.
Was there a lot of heartache along the way with your fertility journey?
Yes, it was a constant, just years of crying and just like not really knowing how to feel. I don't know. It was just a really difficult time. But it's really hard to say that now, because now that I've got Willoughby, I kind of, this sounds weird, but like I've kind of none and voided that. Like I'm kind of like,
it doesn't sound weird. I totally relate.
That just is whatever, whatever. Like,
that was just what it took to get to there.
And now I've got him. I don't really even allow myself to think about it in too much detail, but I definitely don't get upset by anything.
Really?
Yeah, because I just feel so lucky.
Settled where you are
and
now.
So fortunate to have Willoughby. And that was my journey.
There's certainly a thing though when you are trying and it can feel like other people around you are they're having their baby, they're getting pregnant easily, they're having their babies and everything life is moving forward for them. Whereas you are sort of stagnant where you are because you're wanting to move forward, but nothing's happening.
Yeah. And I think one of my friends, she actually had 2 kids.
Really?
Yeah, in the time that I was all got pregnant twice. I can't remember. She had a baby and then she got pregnant again. And I think the second time she told me, I was like, oh my God, this is, and she was so sweet. She texted me, and I actually think that's the best way to communicate with someone who's going through fertility issues, is to just text someone, because they can deal with their own emotions privately without having someone in their face, kind of being like, am I pregnant? And you have to be like...
Or even on the phone, on a phone call, where you kind of have to, at least with a text, you can...
process.
You can process. You don't have to have that face on. Do you know what I mean? To kind of go, yay! You can let it hit you.
Let it hit you. Deal with your own feelings and your own emotions and your own kind of sadness over not being pregnant too, and then be like so happy, because obviously you're so happy for your friends. Yeah. You're in your feels about your own journey, and you're just like, oh, why is it not happening for me? But I learned from that is like the best way, in my opinion, to tackle it.
Did you have any losses along the way?
Yes, but I don't really, I don't know. I feel like sometimes, well, no, I would have. Some of them I wouldn't have known about,
really?
If I hadn't been testing so like vigorously. I maybe wouldn't have even realised.
You would have just thought it was a slightly late period.
Yeah, exactly. There was one where I was like, I don't even know if I even let myself get attached, because I was just like, I don't know. I just didn't really believe it. I guess anything that it's so hard to talk about because it's not just my like experience, but I know that I did lose pregnancies, but I don't think about them as losses. Is that weird?
No, that's how you.
I didn't have any scans, or I only had positive pregnancy tests.
Yeah.
I never had any early scans or anything like that. I never physically saw a baby.
Yeah.
But
you have had that hope.
Oh yeah.
And that those pregnancy tests come with so much.
Yes.
And for them not to be there anymore, you have experienced that.
Yeah.
So whether you see them as babies or losses or whatever, that is something that you've had that rise and fall.
Yeah. I had those positive pregnancy tests that then, would disappear.
Yeah.
And I think they're called chemical pregnancies, anything pre 6 weeks. And that was kind of one of my things that I was like, why is this happening? And I guess I just stopped believing in positive pregnancy tests.
Really?
Yeah, because I was just like, well, this doesn't mean anything, How do I even know if this is going to last? And I didn't get attached to those positive pregnancy tests, because until I've seen a physical baby on a scan, I won't believe it's real. So I didn't allow myself to get attached. And maybe I'm slightly lying there. I don't know. Like maybe I'm not allowing myself to get into the headspace of when I was going through it at the time.
Yeah.
But it was a very
okay.
confusing time for me.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I think we all put protective things in place, whether that's in hindsight or in the moment.
Yeah.
And I think that's absolutely okay to deal with it however we see fit to deal with things for ourselves. Yeah. Some people talk about it, some people don't. And, I don't think there's any right way of doing it.
Yeah.
It's absolutely fine. With that in mind, though, getting pregnant with Willoughby, at what point did you still not believe that pregnancy test? Did you still not kind of allow yourself to go
Didn't believe
there?
it. My husband was like, don't even talk about it.
Really?
Yeah. He was like, you don't know what's going to happen, so just shut up, basically. But I kept testing every single day after I got the positive pregnancy test. And every day it was getting stronger. And I was like, well, it's getting stronger, so it's looking good. And he just be like, nope, we're not talking about it. Just you don't know what's going to happen. And I would just be like, well, okay. And I just knew in my gut that it was good. I knew it felt right. And
did your body feel different this time round?
I actually had bleeding.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I did. I had bleeding.
That must have been worrying.
Yeah. And I think I was like 5.5 weeks, and I was like, well, it's happening again. You know, it's disappearing. And what happened? I'm just trying to remember now. I had bleeding and pain, and I remember thinking this is all over, but I kept testing and it was still getting stronger. So I was really confused. And I went and got a really early scan. I think I was like 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And I said, you know, this is what's happening. And they were like, look, it's not looking good kind of thing. And if we're being honest, you're probably not even going to be able to see, if there is a baby, you're probably not going to be able to see anything this early.
Yeah.
And we had the scan, and there was a baby with a heartbeat.
No way!
At 6 weeks.
I was always, if I had a scan at 6 weeks, I was always told to go away for another 2 weeks.
There was a heartbeat, a strong heartbeat.
Whoa! How did that feel?
I was in shock. I was like, oh my God, this is not real. This is not real. And the doctor told me I had a hematoma.
Right.
Which is really common. And it was growing next to the baby. So the hematoma was this big, baby was this big. And I sort of said, okay, well, I don't know what that means, you know, and they gave me some medication for it. Basically, the hematoma gets absorbed into your body after, it's like a blood clot, gets absorbed into your body over time. But I remember lying there and saying to him, should I be worried about this hematoma, doctor? He was like, yeah, you should. I was like, oh, okay. Great. Amazing.
Did he follow that up with anything?
No. He just said, you should be worried. I know. I was like, what?
So how did you feel when you left? Because then that's such an up and down thing.
I was anxiety ridden. And I, again, didn't let myself get too attached because I was like, well, you know, got this hematoma. Nothing's ever smooth.
Did you research hematomas?
I did. And there was a lot of negative. Obviously, you focus on the negative stuff.
Yeah.
There were a few people that had them and they said, you know, everything was fine. So I just kept taking the medication and kept getting scans. And it got to a point, I think maybe 8 weeks, when the hematoma, the baby was bigger than the hematoma, and it was fine. You know, it was nothing to worry about, but they can cause miscarriages.
Right.
So, yeah, it was a worrying time, and just something, again, I didn't know about. Who knew? Who knew about that? As soon as I knew after the 8-week scan that the hematoma was not a problem, I was like, I'm fine. This is going to be fine.
Really?
Yeah. It was more my husband that was worried, actually. It's weird, isn't it? Because we were yin and yang in the lead up, and then when I was pregnant, I was more like, it's fine. It's going to be fine.
And what was your pregnancy like?
I had bad morning sickness for the first 3 months, and, you know, I couldn't really eat anything, but I took medication for it, anti-sickness medication. I didn't want to take too much medication. This was the thing. I was just like, I don't want to keep taking things. But I took some medication just so I could eat. And, you know, it was testing. Did you have bad?
No, I had a bit of nausea, but that was it.
Yeah, it was not fun. But the second trimester was amazing. I loved it. Yeah, I loved it. I was like walking around with my tiny little bump and just thinking, like, having it stuck out, probably just looking like I was bloated at like 16 weeks pregnant, and just absolutely just all of my feels so happy.
Am I right in thinking your sister had given birth only a few days before you found out you were pregnant?
Yes, she had. Yeah. So that was amazing. And I remember telling her, and she just fell to the ground.
Really? How did you feel heading towards the birth? Was birth something that you'd ever thought about? Had you had any plan in your mind?
So birth, I was terrified of birth.
Okay.
I was really terrified. I just wanted to just teleport the baby out of me and just not.
I mean, I'm surprised I've not worked out how to do that yet.
Well, yeah, exactly. They should really work on that, actually. Yeah, no, I just didn't want to do it. I was so scared. But then it got to the point, I'm sure you experienced this too in your third trimester, where you're just like, get out of me. Get out of me now. And they can't fit in there anymore. Yeah. There is no room. There is no room. They're just hitting you everywhere and kicking, and And they're just always there, and you're just like, you don't want to be in there, I don't want you to be in there, you need to get out. So I was just really open-minded about my birth. I was just like, whatever's going to be the safest route for us, let's do it. You know, I put all my trust into my doctor.
Yeah.
I chose a female doctor. I don't know why that made me feel better about things, but I just thought, like, you've had babies, so hopefully you're going to, like, you know, understand this a bit better. And I'm sure it's the same across the board, but I just thought you've actually gone through it, you know? Yeah. So I just said to her, I don't care what we do. If you think a C-section is best, we'll do a C-section. If you think a vaginal birth is going to be the best way, let's do it. But I just really, really don't want to be in an emergency situation where I'm having to, you know, we're rushing through the doors, you know, into A&E, which is, of course, how it ended up, because classic. But again, I think I can't fault my birth in the sense of how it was handled. It was handled so professionally, and the team around me was so, like, uplifting, and they played, like, nice music, and they were all smiling at me, and it's all gonna be okay. And I was just there like, what the fuck is going on? Like, is he gonna die? Am I gonna die? Like, what's gonna happen? And it is terrifying. And it could have gone one or two ways, really.
Because Willoughby had your cord around
his neck and his head.
See, I thought that was an instant kind of
emergency C-section.
Emergency, yeah. But it wasn't the case.
Well, it was weird. He had the cord around his neck for the last 3 months of my pregnancy.
And was no one ever bothered about that?
No. And I was so concerned by it, because every scan I could just see it there. And I was like, is this, you know, is this okay? Is this normal? You know, he's just, like, being strangled in there. And they were just like, it's fine. It's so normal. Like, like a huge amount of babies will come out with the cord around their neck. And it's just, that's just the way it is. It's good for us to be in the know, but...
Because you would assume... Yeah. When you're then trying to give birth,
it's harder for them to get out.
Yeah.
Well, this is what happened. So when I think I had a scan, like, a few weeks, or maybe no, it was like a day before I went into the hospital, and the cord was around his neck, but also around his head.
Which I guess the thing with that is it then makes the cord shorter.
Yes,
right. So
exactly.
It's not even the fact that it's around it; it's wrapped around again.
Oh yeah. And actually, it turns out that when he was born, it was also around his shoulders, which we didn't see on the scan. So that was another reason.
Yeah.
But he was also back to back.
Right.
And he was showing as large, but we didn't know. Actually, I had a huge amount of amniotic fluid, so he was very normal size. But when it came to the birth, they said it's 50-50. You have to make the decision. We don't know if a vaginal birth is going to... It's 50-50 as to whether he will be able to come out vaginally or not. So you got to decide. And I just wanted... It was my first birth. I just wanted to give it a go with a vaginal birth. And I don't know, like... I should...
That's also a big thing to take on the decision for, when you're like, this is my first time. I don't know what this is.
Yeah.
I'm not in this situation ever. This is the first time.
Yeah.
Whereas you see birth every day.
Yeah.
And you have knowledge that I simply don't have. Like, I can say my body can do it and I can feel, you know, but the actual, when there's something else in play, you just want that advice.
I'm trying to remember if she said to me, if I were you, I would just do a C-section. I can't remember what she said, but I think I was like, when I picture birth, it isn't a C-section. It isn't like that. So I would, selfishly, I mean, I don't even know if that was selfish, but I was just kind of like, I want to do it the natural way. And you know, I just want to do the way that your body's supposed to do it. If I can do it, I'll give it a go. And she knows the situation going into it. If worst case, you know, I remember saying to my husband, I'm going to do this and it's going to end up in an emergency C-section, isn't it? I just know it is. And he was like, yeah, probably. And it was, you know, the back-to-back thing made it a lot harder because it was super painful and he just wasn't in the right position.
Yeah. Am I right in thinking that they thought that he would turn?
We tried to turn him for, like, the first 10 hours of my labour, I think. We just kept trying to turn him in different positions. Which you would think would be also so difficult because they're already... Tangled and engaged by that point. He's in a web of cord.
Yeah.
Literally. And I remember thinking, well, maybe he wants to turn. But maybe he can't. Yeah. You know, maybe he's actually just really tangled up in there. It's just like, it's all just so weird, isn't it? they're just in you and like
just rolling
just
around.
Like, yeah, they're just inside there, just like wrapped up in your cord. So yeah, it was all, and God knows, like if I had been in the wild as a cave woman and like what would have happened there?
Yeah.
You know, if there hadn't been able to be this intervention, how would it have ended? Like, would I have just been able to give birth? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's so crazy to think, but I guess that's why like birth rate and success has gone up as modern technology has come into play. But
did you try for a vaginal birth for quite a while?
Yeah, so I went in at 6. I was already contracting. Then they induced me to like ramp it up.
Yep.
Gave me this drip, and then like broke my waters, which was hell. Have you ever had that happen? That was the worst part. That was honestly horrendous.
Is it really intense?
I was also gushing water for about a day. It just kept coming. I was like, when is it going to end? Like, it's just a never-ending amount of water. When is it ever going to stop? So that was shocking. And then, yeah, I think I had the epidural sort of like, I don't know how many hours I've been in labour for, but it was real painful. I was like, I cannot do this any longer. I think it was like 18 hours or something, because I ended up giving birth at 2 or 3 a.m. So yeah, I just got rushed through to the C-section. And have you ever had a C-section? No, it's not fun. It's not fun.
Well, and also the emergency aspect of it.
Scary.
I feel like, yeah.
Just a weird feeling. And I don't know what a vaginal birth feels like. I don't even know if I would have been able to feel it because I was technically had an epidural, but I'll never know what that's like. But just the feeling of someone like digging around inside of you is like
moving bits aside so they can get to...
I read somewhere that they take your organs out of your body.
I've heard this too, but I don't know if this is
That's
true.
That's not true.
Is it not?
Apparently it's not true.
Do they just shove them to one side? And also, aren't your organs further up? Hasn't everything been squished up?
I don't know, but I read that they take everything out so they can get the baby out, and then they put it all back in. And they just kind of like sew you up, and off you go. And I
don't feel like this is scientific. And also, surely everything is attached to something else, so it can't go very far.
Yeah, you can't just like take them out. Yeah, no. Yeah. I remember thinking, God, like, what if it's all just messed up in there now? Like, what if everything's in the wrong place? But I don't think that's true. I think that was very much misinformation that I read.
Good.
But I had a good few weeks of believing that was the case.
Afterwards?
Yes.
And also because once the baby's out, everything does feel very, very
horrible.
Different.
Horrible. Yeah, like the pain and just like the recovery of everything, and just like everything's different. Like even going to the loo is different, and you just think, oh, well, that's not in the right place anymore. So yeah, no. So yeah, all in all, it ended up okay. It was, he's okay, I'm okay.
Right? So an emergency C-section was a thing that you feared.
It was.
You ended up having one.
Yes.
Was it as scary as what you had thought it would be? Or all the negatives that you had thought about it?
Was it as scary as I thought it would be? Scarier.
Really?
Yes, it was.
Is it the unknown? Because we talked about control earlier.
I think it was like when his heart rate was going so high and all the alarms go off in your room, and then everyone's rushing in and out, and you're just sitting there and you're like, what's happening? What's going on? Like, is he okay? Yeah. Is he going to be okay? And then they're like, we have to get him out. And you're like, well, okay, well, what the fuck? And you just think... And weirdly, I also think they're now under pressure.
Yeah.
What if they make a mistake? Like, they're just humans at the end of the day. I know this is their job, and this is what they're skilled at doing. But what if they mess up? I don't know. The smallest mistake could affect everything. So, yeah, there's that. And it was actually they do this every day. They do this every single day, like multiple times a day, and it's just normal now. It is normal. C-sections are normal, and they're not enjoyable, but gave me my baby. So
did they do the whole baby over the curtain thing?
They did, and like his head was like 3 times the size of what it should be. Cords. Yeah, because it was so swollen. So he looked like Megamind coming over, and I was like, and obviously I was so happy to see him, but I was like, oh my God, his head. you know.
Did they pre-warn you that his head might be swollen?
They said that there was a mass of swelling.
Okay.
Because he was trying to get out,
Yeah.
and they could see it.
Yeah.
And he couldn't fit through. So they said there was swelling, but it was like really, it went down so quickly, honestly.
Yeah.
Like within 30 minutes it was gone. So yeah, saw him, and yeah, it wasn't the most romantic experience because it was he had to have all these checks done and everything for like half an hour, so I didn't get to hold him straight away, which I really regret, and I wish there was a way that I could have held him and been the first person to like, you know, I really wish that could have been the case, but as soon as I held him, he stopped crying, and we are connected forever. The little boy. So much.
So were you still in theatre when you did get to hold him?
Yes, they had to stitch me up, which takes half an hour.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because they've got it's all the different layers.
Because they're putting everything back in.
I know. Just gotta try.
Where's the heart go?
Literally.
Anyone got a lung? Well,
take it off the side and put it back in. That's actually what I thought. So
did you feel like there was an instant bond?
Yeah, I did. And I was really worried about that because, again, I think a lot of people do talk about that really openly, how it's not always there and you don't always have that bond. And I just remember saying to James a lot, like, you know, I might not have the bond. I might not love him. I might not feel close. And James was like, you're gonna be obsessed with him, Lucy. Like, you're just gonna be obsessed. And I was like, but what if I'm not? And it was a fear. And, you know, when people talk about their stories, I don't just poo-poo their stories and think, oh, that won't be the case for me. Like, I always take on board what everyone says and think that could happen to me, you know? And no, it was instant. I loved him straight away.
How was the rest of your time in hospital?
It was hard. It was really hard because I got like a stomach ulcer issue from the medication. So I had to stay there for 5 days. And I try and put a silver lining on that whole experience of being in the hospital for longer and just say, I got so much help from all the nurses and the midwives. They taught me so much when I was there. Because, wow, there's a lot to learn when you've got a child to look after. And I didn't have a clue with a lot of it. So having their expertise and their help hands-on, like 24 hours a day for 5 days was...
Well, how was your recovery, mentally and physically?
Mentally, I think everyone goes through that hormone drop. And that is a shock to the system.
Especially, you know, you've been practicing gratitude. You're feeling like you're lucky. You know how grateful you should be. And all of a sudden...
You just can't stop crying.
You
just can't stop crying. And it's like, even when you're crying, you know that you're not crying about anything. You know that you're just crying. And I just was like, I'm just going to let it happen and just feel the feels, get through it. But I was worried. I was like, is this going to end at some point? Am I going to stop feeling, you know, low about everything? And just, is it going to pick up? Because you do worry about, of course, postpartum depression. So many women experience it. And I think after like the first 2 or 3 weeks, things started getting normal, like balancing out a little bit. Hormones are crazy. How do we do it?
I know.
I honestly don't know how we do it.
It's a continuous thing for women. It's bonkers.
We should get something in life.
I
don't know what,
medal.
but like some kind of like, I don't know, some salary or something. Just for being a woman. So yeah, it is a wild ride. But my recovery was, you know, James was like my nurse basically. And I think I got bored of sitting in bed. I was like, I want to get out and about. And I think I pushed myself too quickly and wanted to go for walks and, you know, do some cooking and do some whatever. And then I was like, okay, no, I need to just chill.
Would you try and push yourself too far then and then be wiped out for a little while? Yeah,
and in pain, in a lot of pain. Because I was too scared to take painkillers because I didn't want to aggravate my stomach. So I wasn't taking anything. So I was like, you know, I had this huge wound and I was like just trying to like struggle through and really I just needed to chill. And I think if I have a baby again, that's what I will do. Hopefully, well, I won't be able to actually. Shit, I've got a baby already.
It's very true.
Just realised
a baby. It's very different. Very different, Lucy.
When you've got a toddler,
you
can't just chill.
Yeah.
Oh well. In another life.
Just, you know, have snuggle days, put a movie on.
Yeah.
One thing you've talked about is your identity as a mum and that feeling of sort of almost losing a part of yourself. Talk to me about that. And at what point did you realise that was how you were feeling?
I think after you give birth, you look in the mirror and you're like, whoa, who is this? She is a shell. a shell of a woman. You know, you're strong and you're powerful and you feel like there's amazing achievement.
Grown life, it's amazing, yeah.
And you're like, oh my God, my child is here because of me. And I did go through an identity crisis because I was like, you have a baby and you can't, your life completely changes. You now dedicate pretty much all of your life to your child. And of course, now I have that balance. But I think for the first 8 weeks, I was all in. I was exclusively breastfeeding. I was just like there for my child and just not really sleeping and all the things that everyone does. But when I got to sort of 8 weeks, I started pumping. And that changed my life because my husband could then feed my baby or our baby. And not only my husband, you know, my mum or his mum or whatever. And that made, and it's just like kind of just taking the steps, isn't it? Mm-hmm. But you are different. And I don't think you'll ever be the same.
I think that the fact that you will never be the same again is only ever a positive.
Yeah.
You know, this is something I always say. Yeah, you can't go through those monumental moments in life and stay the same. What was your journey with your body like? Because you touched on there about how, you know, that first looking in the mirror and kind of going, oh gosh, what is this? At what point did you kind of start embracing your body and your new body or feeling more like yourself again? Because I think that whole snapback thing, that whole kind of looking at people on Instagram thing is so unhelpful because we don't know what happens behind the picture or how much that person might be crying before they took that picture or after it. Or
exactly. You know. And if I'm honest, being completely candid here, I don't think I've yet got to a point where I look at my body and think that's me kind of thing.
Really?
Not yet. And it's been nearly 2 years since I got pregnant. Yeah. So, but I think that is partly because I just haven't yet started working out again. And I used to work out all the time. And I keep saying, I'm going to get into it. And I think when I do that, I think I will feel...
But then I'll look at your photos on Instagram and be like, well, I never look like that. Pre-kids, only like, you know. So it's all about where you are, what you know. Yeah. You know what I mean? And how you feel.
But also Instagram is a representation that you are in control of, like you said earlier. Yeah. Like you control the angles and the images that you post. And I think... a part of what is on my mind at the moment is more not what's on the outside, more on the inside, and I don't feel physically fit. Right. That's something that I think is bothering me at the moment, and it's just like a more health thing. I know. I mean, I ran to the gym the other day, which is maybe a couple 100 meters from my apartment, and I was like about to have cardiac arrest.
It's always really humbling moments like that.
I was like, I couldn't breathe before I even started this class that I was about to do, and I think everyone was looking at me like, is she going to make it through the class? But there are changes with your whole body, and you know, not only just like your stomach and everything, but like, you know, your boobs, and you're changing cup size all the time, and that can be weird too, and it's just part and parcel. Again, where is that salary at for the women? Where is the salary?
When it comes to the last year of motherhood, has it been what you thought it would be?
No, because I don't think you can ever really know what you're getting yourself into when you have a child. Like, you never know what it's going to be like until you do it. And there's so many things, and I'm going to be completely candid here, in the lead up to being a mum, I feel like I fully judged other mums on so many decisions.
Let's talk about, so at the start, we talked about dummies.
Yes.
What was your stance on dummies before you had a baby? Yeah.
My child will never have a dummy. So bad for their teeth. Yeah, no. 2 weeks in, I was like, where's the dummy? Which tummy brand should we try?
But there is that, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think before you're in that situation, you can kind of look on and go, God, no. Yeah. But actually, it's only when you're in it
you
that
can't
you can really
judge.
Make a decision.
You can't judge any mother on their decisions until you've walked, you know, in their shoes. And even then, you shouldn't judge, you know, unless someone's being actually abusive to their kid. Yeah. You just shouldn't judge. So, yeah, there were so many things. And I'm sure so many people are like, yeah, you just wait. When I'd say, well, I'm never going to do this. I'm never going to do that. And then it's like, when you're actually in it, you're just trying to survive.
Yeah.
And, you know, whatever methods you think are suitable. And what you think is right for your child changes when your child is there.
Yeah.
Before, you don't really have those instincts.
Mm-hmm.
The instincts come into play.
Yeah.
Once, you know, I didn't think I'd even, at the thought of breastfeeding, I was like, no.
Really?
Yes.
So what changed?
I don't know. I had my baby and it just felt like a natural instinct.
Did it just sort of happen then?
No, it didn't happen. It was like a real have to commit to this because this is like physical, mental battle for me. It was not enjoyable, natural, anything that I thought it was going to be.
But part of you had that urge to sort of try and to persevere.
I just knew that he really wanted it and I just set myself the challenge of doing it, and I think I wanted to do it. I really wanted to do it, and I always said to my sister in the lead up to giving birth, I was like, I just don't think I could breastfeed, but like I could pump,
and
I could give my baby the milk that way, but like breastfeeding, I don't know.
What was her response?
It's a bit weird. She was like, so you're going to pump every single time, and you're going to like clean the pump and like sterilize. She didn't like say anything. She was like, okay, cool. And I know she was thinking to herself, you're never going to do that. That's going to be so time consuming and you're just going to want to, you know, whack your baby about and feed that, you know, in the middle of the night when you're exhausted. You're not going to reach for your pump and try and do that. And fair play to people who do, because I know there are people who do that.
Absolutely.
And that's amazing. But I was too exhausted. And you know, you do get oxytocin when you're breastfeeding, so that your body does there is a part of a hormonal response that actually enjoys it as well. But yeah, there's so many things. I was like, I'm never going to do this, I'm never going to do that.
How long did your breastfeeding journey last?
I'm still breastfeeding.
Are you?
13 months. Yeah. 13
I went
months.
up to 13 months.
Yeah, I'm still breastfeeding. I do morning and evening at the moment. Again, this is something that I'm like, I'm just going to keep it going till we move into the house. And then maybe we can look to stop because I don't want to take all these things away from him that bring him comfort or happiness and joy and then be like, just all this change. I don't want all this change to happen in the space of a few months. So, but
we'll find a way.
So you did it to 13 months too. That's good going.
Yeah. And then because I did that for the first, I was like, well, everyone has to have that because I can't.
The same.
Yeah.
It's hard, isn't it? I don't know what your experience is like, but it was, not enjoyable for the first, but it gets easier. But yeah, still going. So honestly, it's just.
But also, that's quite nice knowing you're doing it in the morning and the evening. Yeah, that's a nice little bit of time. It's not on demand. For you and him. Yeah,
I've kind of been weaning so slowly because I didn't want to do like cold turkey. So I've just been like over the last few months, just like dropping
and
a feed.
And also for your boobs, just to slowly decline that feed.
Yes,
you know,
adjust.
Yes,
exactly. Yeah, no, I know people that did it cold turkey and
the pain of that. Honestly, it makes
I'm
literally clutching my boobs for anyone that's listening. I just feel the burn, the heat.
Oh, I can't imagine.
The stoneness of that.
Each to their own, and you know, good on you.
Yeah. If you could write a letter on motherhood, who would it be to, and what would you say?
A letter on motherhood? I guess I'd write it to me, the judgy bitch that I was.
I like this letter.
Yeah, I think I'd write it to myself pre-birth and just be like, you just cannot judge any mum until, you've been in that position, and just be open-minded. Let your natural instincts take over and just see what happens. And just don't set yourself any expectations or boundaries yet. Just give it a minute.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love that.
Yeah.
I also like that you ended up with the question of okay. Okay.
You got to be fine with her.
Okay. I like it. I like you know how you have to talk to yourself.
It's
fun. We end the podcast with you completing 3 sentences.
Okay.
And the first one is being a mum means.
Being a mum means everything to me.
I love that. Since having a child,
Since having a child, I have become less judgmental.
Growth. And I'm happy when?
I'm happy when Willoughby's happy.
Oh.
Yeah, it's true.
And sleeping.
I'm happy when I'm asleep.
With you two being in separate beds, are you finding it that you kind of like, yes, when you're in the spare room? Is the spare room the night where it's like your night?
I'm an awful one with it, because if I've had a hard day, I'll be like, I just really think that I deserve the spare room tonight.
So you're not just doing it alternate nights?
We do, but he's very forgiving of me, and like I've got a lot going on at the moment with work, so I'm just like, I kind of use that a little bit. Sometimes I'm like, I had a really hard day, and you know, if I've got a bit of a cold, I'm like, the coughing's gonna wake him up. So, you know, I am a nightmare with that. He's really good. But also he's a much deeper sleeper than me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he needs that super king. He needs it.
Lucy, thank you so much. I've loved this.
Thank you for having me. It's been lovely.
An absolute pleasure.